Well, I would say good morning because my instinct is to say good morning. I'm a morning person, but it's not morning anymore. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I we will have another. I can't say enough about Michael Holter. He is the guy who's going to do our demonstration this afternoon. I worked in newspapers for a long time, and I got very used to a lot of people who had substantial credentials. And after a while, I learned not to really appreciate what they said, but what they did. Michael Holter has done so many things. I was looking at, I just want to read this list. He's a signature member of the American Watercolor Society, the National Watercolor Society, the American Impressionist Society, the Watercolor Honor Society, the Transparent Watercolor Society of America, the Outdoor Painters Society, the Southwestern Watercolor Society, the Missouri Watercolor Society, the Society of Watercolor Artists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I think I read those off of his bio because we were talking a little bit before, and earlier today I went through his website again, and it just seems like I appreciate the things that he does because he does many. I don't do them nearly as well as he does, but he does many of the same things that I do: country things and people and places and things, creatures. Michael is a terrific watercolor artist, and I am really just thrilled that he's here with us today. So, without going on too much more, Michael, would you come and show us how you make your magic?
Oh, you want that part?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the nice intro and for allowing me to be a part of your world up there in New York. Uh, Sounds like a little snowfall is always that's always fun. I live in Dallas area, just north of Dallas, and so when we get snow, it's usually the ugly kind with ice and all kinds of stuff. Um, a few years ago, we had a beautiful 4 inches of snow overnight, and I got up the first thing, and the sun was just perfect. And I went and ran out to these parks and tried to get some photos, and I did, and then by noon, it was it was
All
already
gone.
a mess. So I got some shots and had I did a couple of paintings actually that I've done from that little photo shoot. I used to live in the north, so I know about snow, and I love painting snow. Um, so anyway, digression there. Let's take a look at what we're going to do today. I was thinking about painting something with snow, but ended up we're gonna do a little architectural thing. This photo I took. This is a mission in. I don't know if you all are familiar with the Alamo. I'm sure in San Antonio,
Yeah.
and most people are aware of the Alamo, but they don't realize that running south of the Alamo, there are about five, I think, six other missions that are about, I don't know, 5 miles each, apart from each other. I don't know why there were so many so close together, but you can make that trip and hit all those missions in a morning or something, and they're just some really phenomenal facilities, built back in the colonial days, really, and this is the northernmost mission next to the Alamo, that is, and it's the okay, I don't remember the name of it. the Well, it doesn't matter. It's this one.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do a little something with this. I'm not gonna try to make it look exactly like this. We're gonna try to change some things a little bit. I love the shapes, but I'd like to have a little more light and shadow on it. Excuse me. So I have drawn it out, and I have, as you can probably see, there's some masking tape. I put some masking tape on this left side of the buildings here. So I'm going to indicate light, sunlight coming across, and it's going to be predominantly backlit shapes with a little bit of light hitting the side of it. And that's kind of the theme I'm going to kind of shoot for here. I have a little figure that I've masked out down here just to keep him a little light, and then so I can work with him later without messing him up. So I work in a lot of different styles, of course, as was said by Mike. My palette is a pretty mixed kind of palette, and you can see it's pretty messy.
Yes, thank you.
it messy is good in my book. So on the bottom right, you'll see my yellow to red range. Yellow, new gamboge, cad orange, cad red, alizarin, and then into raw sienna, quinacridone rust, and burnt sienna, the more neutralized yellows, and the quinacridone rust and burnt sienna. Quinacridone rust is just about the same as burnt sienna, only on steroids. The left side, the cools, cobalt teal, cerulean blue, cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, and manganese blue. Those are the main blue range. On the top row, on this little palette of mine, I have on the right side, I have some opaques, titanium white, titanium buff, one brilliant, 1 and 2, and lavender. Those are pretty much an opaque paint. There is also a phthalo green there, I guess I don't have mentioned. And then a quinacridone gold, which doesn't look very gold on this image, but that's kind of a main go-to for me making greens. I make most of my greens from ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and that quinacridone gold. Undersea green that's right next to it is really quinacridone gold and ultramarine blue mixed already. So it's kind of a cheater way to get to it. And I have a few colors there that are kind of dirty on the palette right now. I'm not going to use those today, but those are sort of some more transparent primaries that I use for my portrait stuff. And I have if you can see it in the muck there, there's a little bit of violets, quinacridone violet. That's real potent as well. And I don't need much of it, so I can get a violet from just a little bit of pigment in that pocket there. And then I have some sepia neutral tint for some darks, if I need a punch something really dark, I'll go there. Not too often. Most of the time I can get it with my ultramarine blue. Burnt sienna is my main combination for most of my darks and most of my mixing. Let's see, materials wise, I'm working on a sheet of well, these are the brushes here, just a variety. I use a lot of the Princeton Velvet Touch Long Round, and I'll show you that later. But my primarily my paper today is going to be a Saunders Waterford 140-pound. It's not stretched; it's just taped down, and that's about it for the technical stuff. So when I start, most of the paintings I start, I almost always start with a complete wet into wet wash over the whole thing. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes sometimes I do a portion because of the nature of what it is. But what I'll do here is just wet this thing down nice and wet, and we'll just throw some color on here. And that's going to give me my basis and my first value with a little tone to it. And by the way, I talked to Mike earlier, and we, before we had a little run through, and I'm open to having you jump in and ask questions. If you prefer to send them in the chat form, Michael will give
collect them and pass them along.
He'll pass them along. But if you want to just shout it out, I mean, there's not that many of you. I'm sure you're not going to be shouting all over the place. So you're welcome to let it be known what you have questions about, because I'm glad to answer questions as I go. So wet into wet. I'm going to use some, this is going to be kind of a warm sky. Sun is over here somewhere hitting these buildings. Sun's going to hit this. There's going to be some shrubs and things over here. So I kind of start with indicating where's my sun, where's my light, what's happening. There's going to be some light hitting up here probably on these buildings. I like to balance it out a little bit. But the sky needs something. Is this light going to be creating something up into the sky, into the clouds? Well, let's put a little raw sienna to not quite as bright a yellow. And let's put, we need to have a little bit of blue in the sky. I'll take some ultramarine blue here. And we'll put a little of that over on this side. Just something. We'll have some blue. We don't want to have blue in one spot and not have a balance in our composition. So I like to throw a little bit of color around. Now, I see it. I'm getting a little glare off my lights there a little bit on the top.
That's not too bad.
That raw sienna doesn't do much for me up there. Let's do a little more color and put a little orange into this stew I have here. I often paint from what I call a stew. I just kind of create this puddle of colors and then let the let it kind of develop into what I want it to be, what colors I want it to be as I go. Now that doesn't look very good to me, so let's fix that. Let's just try. We're gonna have some fun with this anyway. This is what watercolor is all about. I'm just gonna mist this a little bit and let this do a little bit more soft blending for now. Maybe I'll add a little more color. So sometimes I get into these things and I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't know if any of you ever have that happen.
No,
but I'm not afraid to sort of experiment. This is all wet anyway. There's nothing here that's, I mean, I could possibly wash this all off if I really felt like it. That's violet. That's a pretty strong violet. Let's just have some fun with this. I don't know what this is going to look like. I like color, and sometimes it's just good to do something where you push yourself a little bit and try some things, even if it isn't what's normally comfortable for you. But adding a little bit of random color or doing something like that, especially at this base level, a lot of this is going to get covered up anyway. The sky now, that will be there. And is the sky interesting to me? Looks a little strange, but it'll be okay. Depends on what I do. I'm going to put a tree up on this left side, I think, here to foil this left side a little bit. So that might take care of some of that stuff there. So I think that'll be fine. We'll say it is, and there's no right or wrong in this game, especially this part. I would like to let it sit and just sort of the pigments falling into the pockets of the paint of the paper would be preferable. But I'm going to use this dryer to hasten it a little bit. Um, really have to have it almost 100% dry when I go into this next part and get into the next value.
How do you have such a quiet dryer?
I do. It's I found somebody was using it somewhere, and I
It's
discovered what it is. It's
Yeah.
called a Ranger heated craft tool,
yes.
and it's right by my microphone. The microphone is right here, and
Yep.
it's pretty quiet.
That's my one question. Another one is it is your paper the rough cold press or do you know whether is it the rough texture or not?
No, yeah, it's cold press. It's cold press.
But is it cold press rough or just sort of
No,
standard?
no, cold press, just regular cold press. It's
Okay.
Saunders Waterford cold press.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. I like Saunders. It works really well. I like Arches, although Arches sometimes has they have had a lot of flaws in their paper making, it seems like. And and I'm trying some Fabriano. I haven't really gotten used to that yet, and there's some others that are good. What I like about this Saunders, I like the way the paints um, the big washes kind of flow, and you'll see it when I get going here. I think it'll definitely work well, and it has a little different kind of grain to maybe their screens that they make them, the molds they make them in are they have a more of a straight line, sort of a mechanical texture or tooth to the grain. So sometimes it's just different. Whereas I think Arches is a little more organic looking in the when the pigments land. Um, anyway, that's what I think. Any other questions? I got another minute or so of drying time here.
You pre-masked out a certain number of areas there first before you started your washes?
Yes, these areas I had masking tape, but I put some tape down and then cut with an X-Acto blade around some of these shapes so that I could keep a little bit of white. Not knowing how dark I was going to get this background, I wanted to retain some of that white. And now up in here, it's almost white against white, so it won't be that big a deal. But it's just kind of, I don't always do that, but I think it works pretty good for these demonstrations. You can really see the whites against the colors that precede. I think that's probably good enough. It's pretty dry. The
Michael, you got a question here in chat about what brand colors do you use?
okay, yeah, I didn't mention that. So on my palette, I have a variety. I'm kind of a Daniel Smith guy. For the most part, most of these will be Daniel Smith. I have my cerulean blue, which is right here, is an M. Graham cerulean blue. I love their cerulean. It's much more of a beautiful sky blue. Um, my burnt sienna is a Winsor Newton. I prefer that just because it seems better, better color to me. More of what I was used to working with Winsor Newton for years, and I don't like other brands that much. Some of these opaques are Holbein, and there's a couple other Holbeins. I have a Cheap Joe's version of a couple things, but mostly it's Daniel Smith. Yeah, it's the transparent version. I saw somebody painting Ken Call. You probably know Ken. He was here in town. I saw him the other day, and he uses a lot of the Primatech by Daniel Smith, which are ground stones, ground minerals, and they're very interesting, very sedimentary. And so I sent to the friends at Daniel Smith and asked them to send me some. I want to try those and see what they're like. That you can do a lot of fun things with something different, you know, just try something different. You know, I'll paint with different media times. Um, but so anyway, what I'm going to do here now is we're going to go down, starting on this tower here, and I'm going to create. I want this tower to be a little more distant than this one, to be a little more dominant, more forward. So I'm going to keep this one a little bit cooler and less detailed. I think that's what I'm thinking now, anyway. So these are the Velvet Touch long round brushes. They're Princeton has made a couple of different of their named brushes in this long round, which is a longer fiber than your typical round, and it's I like them because you get really nice fine point. You can it's almost like a rigger in a sense, but you get because of it's got a lot of volume to the base. It holds a lot of liquid, and yet it has a pretty fine point. So I'm going to start with, like I said, I want this one to be cooler. I'm going to start with my stew of burnt sienna ultramarine blue. And I'm going to just come down and create this this shape here that makes this top of this building. And I'm going to keep it cool. And it's going to be silhouetted to a degree, so it can be pretty dark. But at the same time, I don't want it to be overpowering up here in this part. What I think I'm going to do is do a little shift. Now that's a nice nice gradation, or nice smooth transition down there. I like the way it looks. Little thing here, I don't know what this, little cross or something. But I'm going to take a little opaque. This is a my lavender. I'm going to drop in some lavender into this just to cool it. And it does make it a little more opaque, but it is I find that it works well to try to push things a little more distant and not get them too washed out looking. The whole thing about watercolor, the beauty of it is, of course, that you have the you know, you can thin it down and make lighter values, but the more you thin it down and make light values, the more you get tepid kind of things happening. I'm going to use more burnt sienna and change this color a little bit as it comes down into here. Now, there is an arch window thing here, and I'm going to try to keep that light coming through there. So, okay, now that looks a little dark to me. I'm going to throw in some raw sienna and into this next portion here. Let that be a little less dark, hopefully. There's a little masking I've done around some of this right in there. That'll come up and show white eventually. Now, The interesting thing about this texture of this paper, it almost has, because it's very mechanical, like I said, it almost has a look of bricks or something when you first put it on here. Now it dries, it doesn't dry that way so much, but I'm going to do this this little archway. This is like the inside of the arch. I'm going to take some orange and red, and a lot of times light bounces up into these arches and gives you some really nice glow. And I don't care if it melts into the stuff that I've already put out here. It's just get a suggestion that there's some light bouncing around in here. Might be a little too much there. One thing about, again, this Saunders is really a nice paper, but if you let it dry too much at the bottom or go back into it when it's partially dry, you'll get some bad edges. So you really got to keep up with this bead at the bottom. You want to make sure it stays pretty fluid.
Michael, I want to read to you a number of comments that are in there. The first one says, "It's always ugly to see snow in Texas, but you have a nice skyline." The second one says, "This may be the Mission San Antonio de Valero. Others are Concepcion, San Jose, San Juan, and Espanda."
It's San Jose. It's that's the one.
Okay. The next comment says, "Why tape rather than masking fluid?"
Good question. Masking fluid could be used, but then I have to dry it, wait for it to dry or whatever. And these are nice, clean, crisp edges, which works nice. I'd stick a piece of tape down and cut it, and it's perfect. I use masking fluid more for little spots of color, and I don't use a lot of masking, but yeah, I would I kind of choose to use it in places where it works for me to to get the effect I want or whatever. This is a little darker, and it's, of course, it's dark because it's the first thing done. I was hoping to get it a little lighter. Now I could really mess with that a little bit. And wonder if I should do that. It might freak you out here. It's still damp. I'll just leave it. I'll leave it.
Steve says he thinks that tape gets better corners for masking.
Yeah, you get nice edges and sharp corners and things, whereas with the fluid you're gonna have these sort of organic shapes and so on. So it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, I'd say. So now I need to decide where I'm going to go. This side here is facing the light, so it's getting a little bit more sunlight. Let's just do a little bit of warmth on here, and there's a little, I created a little archway door like feature here that I'll just paint right over it right now. I'll put some shadow on there later. And then this comes across and is more in shadow. So let's go back to a cooler, a little more blue in our mixture. Now, one of the things I'm going to try to do here is drop in some texture as I go. Now, I was going to try to avoid it a little bit up there in that top one. Keep it simple, but down in the rest of this, I think I'm going to try to get it more textured, because there's so much texture on like in the photograph, it's all these stones and all that. And I'm not going to, obviously, I'm not going to paint every stone, do that kind of thing. For several reasons. Really what I like to do and what I like to, when I'm teaching, a lot of times what I try to do is really emphasize using shapes to create your paintings and not get hung up in all the details. Try to find things, or in some cases like this, perhaps changing the photo from a lot of texture and a lot of little details to a photo of shapes, because I love the shapes. I think these shapes make the painting or make this image. And if I am going to create something that's got some impact, I think the shape it can be the real important part of it, the real message, the composition, the design, all of that. I'm just tapping the brush and flicking some color in here to get some more, hopefully some interesting colors in here. A little bit of the burnt sienna. Get a little warmth down in here. So all these textures in this building. Now I just got it all over this area over here. Try to do when I'm doing this kind of thing is protect that area. I usually do that. Try to anyway. And I didn't. So this is where this little arch is, a little walkway through here. That'll be in here. Just to be a little darker, a little cooler. So I've adjusted the from the photograph and from the draw, the actual photograph. I've added or taken off a whole bunch of wall here and added what would look like an entryway or an archway here, and made this end of the building right on this spot here, so I can show depth. I like to have depth in my paintings, and using aerial perspective and pushing things softer as they get further away, and that will happen when I get to the next part over here. Okay, now I think what I'll do, this this portion of the building over here, I've actually indicating that a little bit of light is catching there, not a lot. So I'm going to keep this fairly, this one little section right in here where the sun would maybe be a little bit more directly influencing this section. I'll do that in here. And keep that warm. Mix in some other colors. There's some more ultramarine blue from my stew. Whoa. You see that? I got a whole clump from my palette on there. I guess that's going to have to be a dark spot. None of you ever do that.
No.
None of you ever dip your paintbrush in the coffee. I'm sure.
You got a LOL to that last comment.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, This was the quinacridone rust. See how nice that is? It's a beautiful color, except it isn't where I wanted it, but. Okay, so this top part, this is all going to be, has to be fairly dark, but this dome is going to have a gradation, of course. So the gradation has got to be going from a warm to a cool. Let's just get some. Now, I'm not trying to do what, the color of the dome that's on the photograph. I'm just going to try to create an interesting, colorful form here, and it's by keeping it simple. I think we'll it's more like as if the sun is just hitting this thing, and it's silhouetted against the distant clear bluish sky, and it's totally giving you a different look than it would on a cloudy day, which is more or less what I have in the photo. So we're going to just create this little bit of fiction here. Dark on this side, and gradation as we go across. Now let's just take a little bit of drag some of this in there and let it just sort of blend itself. And I'm going to keep going down here. I leave a little bit of where the light might be catching an edge there. I don't need a lot of it, just something. One thing about watercolor, and the way I approach it anyway, is there's some things that I've done before, and I'll do them again as a demo, or I'll repeat myself on a certain kind of painting style or technique or whatever. But I do really like to learn something along with people who are watching, like a demo like this, or my students. So there's times when I'll do something I've never done before, and try to push myself to whatever it is. Might be color usage, it might be composition, might be the painting itself. The whole painting is and of course my oftentimes when teaching, my most successful teaching painting is the one that I've done before several times or whatever, and it's easy to say, yeah, this is easy, you just do this and do this. But I have done it before, so it's easy. And then there's times when you push yourself and say, well, no, I'm gonna do something that I haven't done before, and we're gonna have some fun with it. Now, I've done this building in a way before, but I haven't painted it like this, I guess is what I'm kind of indicating here. I'm kind of trying to do something a little different here. So this bottom corner here, I'm going to do I want this to have some foliage, and I think what I'll do, I got some of that yellow on there, but that's not enough color, and I want it to appear maybe that the light has, the sun has hit this area over here. I'm going to start with some warm splatter, a variety of warms. That was some raw sienna. Here's some azo orange, but I don't want it to be all like an orange bush or anything, but then I'll go into some greens here and we'll make this look like a blue green. And of course, colors in the shadows, when you got a bright sunlight behind you like that, the colors into the shadows become much more muted. They're bright when the sun hits them, but they're pretty muted when the sun isn't there. I'm just going to create a little shrubbery feel down here, very abstract. Use the paints, let the paints mingle on the paper. Use my brush a little bit, but now the whole edge of this is going to get silhouetted. I'm going to push back behind that edge, so hopefully it'll give me some of that feeling I want. And then we're going to go on the other side and we're going to create some of that same texture later on.
Steve adds another comment that says messiness makes for good watercolors.
Yeah, I mean, if you control everything, and I mean, I have good friends that are photorealists and do phenomenal watercolor. That's not me. I can't. I don't have the patience, I guess, for it or something. I've got some of the industrial things I've been doing lately are close to a photorealism in that they're pretty detailed and pretty tight, but I do them. I'm using the photo as a reference, but I'm not copying the photo. But I'm trying to get textures. I'm trying to get the things pretty precisely and pretty sharp in these mechanical. If you've seen my website, I've got a couple there, and the one that's going into got one going in the American Watercolor Society show this year. It's a part of a wheel of an old iron tractor, and just a lot of texture and rust and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of a fun thing to do, and it's much more. There's areas of it that are loose and flattery, but there are areas of it that are pretty detailed in a sense. So I kind of like that combination. I don't think I can do the kind of crystal things that people do. I don't think I can. I mean, if I wanted to, I could, but I just don't think that's me. Okay, I'm going to put a little moisture back here in this background here, and we're going to do a little wet into wet, get a little distant feel back in here. So to push distance, it's best to use a cool, start with something pretty cool, and I'll gray it out a little bit with some burnt sienna, but still it's my ultramarine blue burnt sienna and I just want to start with and see how wet it is. That's probably pretty good. I could put a little bit of quinacridone gold on the corner of it to get a little bit of green tinge to it, maybe. Now the sun coming across would hit certain parts of branches and so on, and you could conceivably try to recreate that feel. I'm not going to worry about that right now. This is just going to be a little distant feeling of some trees. I like those little edges there. Maybe I'll make a little pine tree out of that. I don't know if there are pine trees there around the mission or not. There were some kind of some trees like that, but not exactly those kind of pines.
What kind of brush is that, Michael?
This is a little hake brush. I've got several sizes that they're pony hair Chinese brushes.
Looks like you've had a good time using that one.
Oh, yeah. I've got this and a couple others. I think I've had, since I started painting, they haven't died. And the hairs haven't come out, so they're still useful. Okay, that'll be fine. I'm gonna probably cover that up anyway with some tree up in here, probably. I won't even see it. I got a glob of paint in here for some reason. Probably the same reason I had it all over my hand. All right, I need to put a little warmth on this this side right here. Now this has got a lot of warmth up there, and I think this needs to repeat that down in here, and it's going to have some other things going on as we get into it, but I'll just put a little tone on it and let this be. Now here's where the back, I'm going to negatively paint, again, around these bushes here, or this bush up front. So I'm going to leave some texture there. And then we're going to come down to this wall here. There's just several walls that were in this scene, and I've changed them around some, but I like the kind of the blocks and the way they lead you back. So I think I'll just take this one and we'll just jump right in here with some of the stew again. Maybe a little warmer. They can all melt in right there. It doesn't matter. And again, this is where I'm painting the negative around this, the highlighted part of this bush. I like when colors from one section merge into another and create these nice edges that are soft, lost edges. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I need to probably should just dry this so I don't get my arm into it. Let's do that. Y'all haven't fallen asleep, have you?
No,
Still here.
Watching paint dry there. Let me take the this masking tape off. I think it's a little deceiving what's happening here. And I think if I take it off, the whites will help me anyway to see what's going on better. Does my microphone pick up the dog barking?
no.
I have a neighbor that has an obnoxious dog. I don't mind dogs, but this one barks all the time. No matter what I'm doing, if I make a little bit of noise outside, it's barking or whatever.
Your microphone did not pick up the dryer either at all, so.
Yeah, good. It's pretty quiet. It doesn't uh, make much noise. You see how white that is. Now I'm gonna have to put tone on these areas because it's definitely I think I'll leave my little guy for a little bit. Now, since I'm making up the light source and all that on this one, it's you know, may or may not be all 100% kosher. Some of this is going to be a little bit off from where the sun might be, but that's okay. You don't have to be precise always with that kind of thing. There is a little bit of, I left a little bit of tape right here to kind of give me a little highlight in this window. Well, it's I guess it's an opening, the belfry kind of opening. I didn't paint much dark behind there though, so it doesn't show much. Okay, so that's my, except for the guy here, that's all the white masking that I put on. So I can work around that and try to make that make more sense. Let's see. My lovely wife just came and asked me if I needed anything, but no jokes, no jokes. She does, when we do online workshops, she often helps me, and then she pops in with a bad joke once in a while. And I'd say bad because they're just corny.
Jokes are okay. They're better than the dog next door.
Yeah, they're we call them Laffy Taffy jokes. If you ever had Laffy Taffy, the candy, they have bad puns on them and stuff like that. So anyway, she might read a Laffy Taffy joke. All right, let's see what we're gonna do with this this building here.
You just got a comment that says, come on, let your wife add to the fun.
All right, you got a joke? I guess you didn't hear me. All right, we're gonna put some details onto this building back here without, I don't want to put too much because I don't really want it to be super. Do you have a joke?
Yeah,
They said they wanted a joke.
I know. Everybody does. What's a dog's favorite instrument?
What's a dog's favorite instrument?
A trombone.
A trombone.
Okay, thank you. Can we have the next contestant, please?
Okay, I'll tell you my favorite one. Why is it artists from, where are they from?
New York.
Why is it artists from New York are more apt to be arrested than regular folks?
There's no regular folks in New York?
Because they're so sketchy.
Wee.
I made that one up myself.
So anyway, there you go.
Okay, thank you very much.
You asked for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, during COVID, we were doing a lot of online stuff. So I think people were ready for a bad joke more than.
Bad jokes are fine. I like that.
So, what am I gonna do with this now, huh? There's lots of little details on this building that I'm not going to get into. I think I'm going to darken that a little bit more. So how did the name for your group come into being?
The Niagara Frontier Watercolor Society,
Yeah.
NFWS. Well, this is the Niagara Frontier up here.
So is that the area you call it, the frontier?
Well, some people do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not
We're
familiar.
I'm south of, well, I'm kind of east of Buffalo, but it's about a 45-minute ride for me to get to Niagara Falls.
Uh-huh.
That's pretty close.
Yeah. So the frontier is that's I was wondering about frontier. That's part of your regional description of the area or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It was founded in 1985 because the group of watercolor painters locally felt that they were underappreciated by a major museum gallery.
Uh-huh.
They had a big show of the gallery, which is now called the Albright Knox. I can't remember its new name, but anyway, it's a big deal place. And they decided to have a show of all the members. Anybody who wanted to could put a painting in, or a sculptor. And they had it in categories, and there was oil painting and sculpture and drawing and crafts, which included watercolor painting.
Crafts, okay.
And these people really objected to that, rightfully so, I think. So they decided to have their own show before they actually founded the organization, and figured they'd have maybe 30, 40 paintings. I'm not get the number, but there's like 3 times that. So many watercolor painters looking to show their work.
Yeah.
As a result, 25 people got together and founded the Niagara Frontier Watercolor Society.
Very cool.
Yeah. And its main mission in life is to educate people about transparent watercolor.
Good.
For a long time, we had nothing but transparent watercolor shows twice a year. But the bylaws actually read that there will be 1 show of transparent watercolor per year. So a few years back, a group of us decided that 1 show of transparent watercolor, the other one can be water media. And we've loosened it up a lot for every one of those shows, much
Cool.
more like the American Watercolor Society, where
Uh-huh.
acrylics and things on UPO and rice paper and canvas are all acceptable. So we still have a transparent watercolor show every once in a while. In fact, the members show this spring is going to be a transparent watercolor show.
Very good.
So it's a very active organization. It's a good organization. A lot of
It
good
is very-
volunteers.
Right. Carol, what was it? 220 or 260 current members?
I think 235 we're at, or 242, something like that.
Okay.
And we go up, we attract people from all over New York State, as well as down into Pennsylvania and Canada. We got some members that are way out there, someplace like Texas even. Can you
Oh,
imagine?
yeah.
And California.
In California, do we have a California person on today?
Awesome.
This is Lena. Yep.
Oh, Lena, sure. Lena Bradford, yep. And sometimes people give a demonstration and they're so impressed by the group that they join, like Lena.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's a nice group of people. And
Well,
our volunteers who run the exhibits and they run the workshop. We have 2 workshops a year. bring in good people. Lots of good people. We had Mary White last spring, and
Cool.
Stan Curse was our fall workshop. He was great. So it's a great organization. A lot of hard workers, and
Well, that's great. Y'all are, I think the thing about watercolor is that that I like, and I think as you saw or heard, I'm a member of a lot of different watercolor societies, but I'm also a member of the American Impressionist Society, a signature member, and when I first was entering, there weren't hardly any watercolors in there, and there are more now, but it's mostly oils, acrylics maybe a little bit, but mostly oils. And as much as I like the Impressionist stuff, there's nothing quite as varied and interesting as a watercolor show. There's so many things, so many styles of painting. There's everything from photorealism to non-objective and so you've got a tremendous broad view of what art is all about, really, and it's really a pretty remarkable thing, I think. Unfortunately, not everybody knows that much about what's going on in the world of watercolor unless you're in it, I think I got this way too light back in the back here. I need to put a little more punch in this background here. It's light, which I like, but I think I need a little more depth of some sort here. And I wanted it to be light, but I need to push it a little bit darker here. Now this is on dry paper, so it's going to be some light coming across, so I think some of this will be going right into some shadows. Will come off here. So we'll just use that pigment right there to create some of that. And these shadows are also going to go across this. There's going to be a lot of shadows hitting this building over here for sure. And we'll add some more stuff there. Maybe a little let's make a tree mark in there too. Okay, where am I going here? Okay. I think there's a couple of these walls that need to be a little darker. Separate them. This one here. I'll take a flat brush and so and we're gonna try to create some texture in here. think there's going to be some shadow coming off something here onto this wall. Stick some of that in there. Okay. This,
Your layering looks great.
oh,
Love
thank you. Thank you. The glazes and layers are kind of important sometimes. Building value. I think what I need to do to I need to figure out what this tree over here. I know I want a tree. Now, one thing about this is a mission here in Texas, and if you're down, in that area, which is near the hill country of Texas, and where Texas is so interesting because the east side of Texas has got a lot of pine trees, and the Gulf creates a lot of moisture, and you get further west, you get into pretty much desert-ish kind of climate.
Hill
And-
country.
Hill country. And so San Antonio is kind of in that range where it's right between. It's a little more closer to that hill country stuff. So they don't have tall pine trees or tall trees there very much. Trees get stunted by the heat and by the ice storms, and they're low live oaks and things. So a big tree up here is a little bit off of what probably would be historically and traditionally accurate, but I really wanted to have a tree that kind of brought this sky into the painting a little bit. So I'm going to do it anyway, and I am going to cover up some parts of this painting to keep it from getting too much stuff on it, because I'm going to splatter a little paint around here. Let's see. So I'm going to use some, I want some of the sunlight feel up on the top of these. So I'm going to use some gold and some warm tones. This is some gamboge. Then I'll go into some other, I put a little quinacridone gold in there. It's always such a good mixing color. And I'm going to put some greens in there, some quinacridone gold, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, all of those kind of colors, and they all mix. They all mix on the paper. I have some paintings that are created almost entirely like this, just letting the paint run, dropping these colors in on the paper and letting it flow and create its own you know, its own place. It just kind of drew, you know, because I have the board slightly slanted, so things are going to run downward. Let me take a look at what I've got. Just move this a second. So I want it to be a little, oop, that's a little too much blue. I want this to be filled in up in the corner. I don't want your eye to go off that corner. I want to fill in a little bit here and there with the brush. Now it depends on how I want to do this. Do I want it to go, do I want an actual tree trunk in here at all? I don't think so. I think we're too, that would be too much, but maybe maybe we have a, let me take a little ultramarine blue. I mean, a little burnt sienna. Maybe we'll do some branches. Let these colors kind of mingle. We'll have another one in here. I think we need a little more out here. So the thing about, you know, creating trees this way is you don't have to paint every leaf. They get painted pretty rapidly by the way you do your little splatter. You do have to have a little bit of control over where you put them, but you know, nature kind of creates its own patterns, and so if it doesn't go exactly where you want it to, that's okay too. Let's do a little bit down in here. Let's see, I don't want to get it in the, let's see, I think I need some down in here. Well, that was fun anyway. All right. Okay, doke. How much time do we have?
Another half an hour.
Wow. All right, let me see what I can do here.
Michael, I should say, you said how much time you have as much time as you want. If you're done, you're done. If you want to go longer, that's fine.
Well,
It's up
thank
to
you.
you.
Well, I've got to kind of wrap this thing up, but it's going to take me a little bit of time here.
right.
So let's, I'm going to go back into some of these areas on this building here and create some darks. We need a few more darks over here to finish off some of the just the details and all that. There's a really interesting window shape over here.
You just got a comment that says, I love it and I love watching you do it.
Ah, well, very good. I enjoy painting, and it's always fun when it works. That's one thing, and it doesn't always work very well sometimes. So these stones and all this, there's a lot of this sort of, it's almost like stain that comes down from off of some of the rocks and stones. We'll try to suggest some of that here and there. I think I'll take cover up this part there. And, some more texture into this one here, a little dark stew. I'm just going to let some of that sit and and create some little this is all stone, very very old stone walls, and so they have
Michael, it was just a question that wants to know, does this paper allow for structural, wait, let me just get the comment back here again. Does the paper admit to textural strokes?
The paper, I think I understand. Yeah, I mean, if you can do dry brush and get texture with this, yes. It is a little interesting because it's a little different texture than, like I said, in like arches. And where I noticed it one time was on Joseph's Bookvik had been using it on a painting, and it was this sort of pastoral thing like he does. And there was this dry brush stroke across the foreground, and the texture of the paper left this dry brush mark almost looking like a tractor tire had gone over there and left a mark because of the mechanical nature of it. It was really interesting. It was like, wow, you couldn't try to do that. I mean, it was really pretty cool. But so it does have a little bit more texture than or it allows for that texture, but it's a little different than what you might be used to on another paper. Okay. Let's do a little texture back in here. So living up where you all live, I suppose you're all cross country skiers and snowmobilers and stuff like that.
There are some people. The snow, just incidentally, the snow is all gone here now.
Ah. But you could get it again, right?
Oh, yeah.
After all, we're still in February, aren't we?
Yep.
So I grew up in North Dakota, and you know, certainly saw varying kinds of rough winter weather, sometimes quite cold. But the one that I remember, the most memorable snow and storm story I have was my senior year in high school. We had this Ides of March storm, 3 days of blizzard. Because it was pretty warm, the snow piled up and was firm, so you could walk on it. And we were able to walk over the top of buildings and cars after it
Wow.
quit storming. I mean, there were 30-foot drifts over buildings, and it was crazy.
Well, Buffalo does get occasionally blasted. There have been a couple of really impressive storms. A couple of years back, we had what we called Snowvember. And where we are, and this had a lot to do with the bands of lake effect snow. But we had 7 feet of snow.
Wow, yeah. So one of the things about watercolor too is you can lift back, you can scrape back, you can scrape into trees. And in this case here, if I want this to look like stones, or if I wanted it to be very linear like bricks, I could scrape a line. I've got like a credit card. You could scrape a little line across and make edges that look like bricks. But this is stone, so let's just do it as a more random scrapes here and lift some of this back by just scraping into this damp paint, not too wet. It's got to be a little bit dry. Let's see, we got to have this is an arch. I planned for an archway right in here.
You got a comment from Beth, who says, love the use of the red to warm the painting. Never thought of that. And I love the spatter for the trees. Itching to try that.
Oh yeah, that is fun.
Somebody else said they're waiting for summer and some plein air painting. The light effect is nice and realistic here.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you're getting something out of this. So
Yeah.
So I have still have these areas down here where I could probably throw some more texture in. I don't want to overdo it either. Let's see. Gotta go a little darker down in here. A little gradation. This is kind of an odd gradation because it's a lot of the texture mixed in with it, but I'm trying to go a little cooler, a little darker down there. And there are these shadows that can come across here. let's see. So I probably should try to finish this sometime.
Yeah.
I think I'll put a window in here or something. Just need something to break that space up a little bit. Um, one of the things that I don't like that happened here is I lost the edge on this, the white I wanted on the edge of this dome. I'm gonna just wet this down here a little bit. I'm gonna go in with some gonna darken this a little bit on this, like along that edge, just so I can feel like it's, the light is actually popping on there. So maybe I'll make some clouds out of some of this.
Another comment from Val, which says, I love the dramatic lighting and the colorful accents.
Thank you. Um,
You have a figure down there near the left corner of the church. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that guy, I left him covered with tape just to see if it would, if I could utilize that light on him. So let's, since we have this orange up on the top up here, let's put a little orange on him. Give a little light on the left side for the lights hitting him. His face should be a little bit red. And let's go dark on his slacks. Let's go.
Michael has a question. Someone wants to know, who were the artists that influenced you?
Okay, well, that's a good question. I mean, when I have an art degree and taught art in high school for some years, so I have a little bit of a broad view of some artists that, you know, the you know, of course, the Leonardo and the Rembrandts and all those kinds of historical figures. But I think moving into the contemporary stuff, early on, Richard Schmid was a real a hero back years ago, and I've followed him up until his death recently. And some of the current watercolorists, you know, are out there that, I mean, John Singer Sargent was a watercolorist as well as painting all kinds of other, you know, oils and things. But so it's, you know, it's a lot of different lot of different influences that way, I guess. Some of them, uh, some of these contemporary people that are out there, everybody from Joseph's Bookbick and Charles Reed, he passed away. He was an influence, I guess. A lot of the Ted Nuttall, I know him, and he's been an influence on my portraits for sure. I mean, lots and lots and lots of these guys that are out there are just remarkable painters. There's some really great ones. I like this white line I've got here. I don't know what that's from. So, there's a lot of these architectural illustrators that are out here that are painting watercolor these days, and some of the things that are is great about them is if you look at their work, they're really good at symbolizing and creating the symbols for things, because that's part of their training was to, like, for instance, on this these stone walls, you see the patterns I've got here, and then down in here, somebody who's a professional at this, they would, if they're going to create a wall that's a stone wall, they learn how to, with a few strokes, create these impressions that there's stones, or there's bricks, or there's whatever it is. I mean, that's the great thing about some of these guys that have got a lot of that kind of training. You look at their work, the Thomas Schallers and the Ian Stewarts and some of those guys. They know how to create with very few strokes a lot of.
You're doing a pretty good job yourself.
Well, yeah, thank you. I don't often get this carried away with these kinds of markings, but I figured it would work on this structure, to give that impression.
Yep.
And some of them I'm going to leave a little bit less textured, maybe, and then I will go in and oftentimes I'll use a little bit of opaque whites at the end of a painting to bring out some highlights or something, especially if I haven't left these whites that I had left already on this one. I have some whites that I've left, so. So now it's just, these are just little markings to kind of create some different textures and different things here and there. One of the things that I often do is make a mess with the splatter. I have these little marks up there, so little splatters that I didn't intend to be there. You might as well use them. Turn them into little pigeons that fly. Pigeons are everywhere around buildings like this, so might as well use them. So I think we're about at the end of this. My last step is always to claim it, sign it, make sure it's, on this day, at this time, in this situation, this is the way it worked, and sign it and claim it.
That Princeton brush has served you very well.
Yeah, these are great, and they have this is the Velvet Touch. They also have a long round in the, what's it called? In their Aqua Elite. I think this one has actually got some sable in it, so it's they don't, the Velvet Touch doesn't last forever, because they do wear you know, any synthetic brush especially will wear. The more you use it, the more it's gonna work its way to some kind of a, the tip will be gone. I'm gonna dry this for a second here. When you do these splatters, sometimes they take a while for them to dry because you put quite a bit of juice on them. Let me take the tape off here. You can see it a little cleaner.
That's terrific. Carol would be interested in having you send her a copy so that when she posts it, she can show the final result.
Is that possible?
Oh yeah, sure.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
It sure
I
is.
like, I like,
Armstrong
the
just
fella-
said that.
I like the little fella down there. I think he adds a lot to it.
Yes. And the color, the red.
Yep.
The thing about, you know, figures, figures add scale and add a little human interest. Now, in actuality, the any, you know, old missions and things, they're a lot smaller than you think. The doorways are small, you know, and the figure probably would be taller in scale reality. But anyway,
Well,
he
thank you very
adds something.
much. I'm going to,
Right. You have gotten a whole collection of final comments. Beautiful and lovely, and thanks so much, and I love the color and things along those kind of lines, a whole bunch of them.
Good. Well,
I'm going to stop the recording right now.